States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ashley, you want to take the roll call?
Mike Hobson,
Here.
Michelle Blythe,
Here.
Jan Schweddy,
Here.
Marilyn Early,
Here.
Jessica Stickles,
Here.
Deborah Nelson,
Here.
John Canning,
Here.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Judy?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we did have one member of the public that wanted to make comment this evening, so we'll welcome Mary Chesney. Can you hear us, Mary?
Needs to unmute. Dial by dialing *6.
Mary, dial *6 to unmute your phone.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted automatically. This is Mary Chesney. I observed the City Council meeting last week when you were discussing the proposed plan for the fire department. And I had a few questions because I'm a little bit concerned about the proposal. One of the reasons given for changing the system had to do with the fact that the community is growing, which is very obvious if you drive around, you see all the new buildings going up. But my concern is that if we go into this proposed plan, that perhaps our actual needs might not be met because we're joining with another community. I don't know what our census is going to show for our population. I doubt we're at the point where we're as big as Marysville, which has its own fire department. But I see the potential that we could be that big. And by joining in with the North County, I'm concerned that we are not going to have our interests always as well looked out for as they are when we have our own fire department. I assume we will lose our fire chief, that if that person continues in a position at all, they'll be as a supervisor. But again, by joining this consortium, I have great concerns, and I understand that part of it's financial because new equipment is needed. It's a way to spread out the costs. But again, if we're getting bigger, and not just from housing, which doesn't bring in a lot of tax dollars, but from businesses, which really is what tends to fund cities, to me, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to do this at this point.
Thank you, Mary. That was all the comment that we had for this evening. Oh, did I cut you off, Mary?
Yes, feel free.
Sorry. Are you done? Oh, you muted her. Okay. Okay, that was all the public comment we had this evening.
So, Mayor, I was just wondering, do you want to have Paul address any of her questions, just because I know other citizens do watch these meetings, so that just a couple things could be clarified?
Certainly can do that. I'll start with.
Oh, perfect.
I'll make sure that I'll start with the with representation, which I think will meet some of the question that she had. Is that the council committee that worked with North County Regional Fire on developing the annexation plan, adjusting North County's operating plan to allow Arlington to annex into the district, also allowed for representation. So the structure of the governance will change once Arlington annexes in to have 2 seats directly from Arlington, in addition to at-large positions, which could be filled from Arlington or in the other portions of the county. So out of the 7-member board, there would be 2 dedicated seats and then seats at large. So the city of Arlington would continue to have representation and be part of the RFA's commission. The other question was in regards to the police chief, and that's also something that council has had discussion on throughout this, and that our police chief, along with all other staff, will transfer to the RFA. Nobody loses any rank or position or anything. All of our employees will be brought into the RFA.
Maybe we should clarify it's the fire chief.
Yeah, and the fire chief. We have an operations plan for the fire chief to move in to the RFA, and after all of the transition would become the chief of the RFA.
And then she asked about the funding, Paul, stating that it was businesses that were funding it more than property taxes. Maybe you could clarify that.
Yeah, right now we don't have a dedicated funding source for the fire suppression side. The fire department is funded through our general property tax. So it does come dominantly from the residential property tax that we collect. We do collect for EMS, for emergency medical services. We do have a EMS levy that pays a portion, and we do collect transport fees for the EMS. As we know, we've talked about this for several years now. The two together do not cover the costs of providing the EMS service. This is why we added the ambulance utility fee a few years ago. So between the three of those revenue sources, that funds the EMS side of the fire department.
I heard her say one other concern was, would our needs be met? So will we have good service like we do now?
Yeah, and the other part of the plan is a guarantee that our service will be as good, if not better, that can't be reduced. So once we annex in, the RFA can't say, sorry, Arlington, we're now going to have a larger response time to your area. All the fire stations that are in the city remain, operational fire stations in the city remain in operation. The staffing numbers will really not change. Response times will, like I said, remain the same or be better with the RFA. And we're one of three cities left in the county that has a municipal fire department. All of the other cities have gone to a district or RFA. Us, Everett, and Mukilteo are the last ones. So the other cities have found that this is a more cost-effective way over the long run to provide fire and EMS services to the community. There is an economy of scale that works after the initial startup, where you don't need quite as you save some money in the administrative costs, and so you get an economy of scale, which provides for better service to the citizens.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the October 19th and October 26th, 2020 council meetings and October 26th, 2020 audit exit conference. Also including accounts payable, approval of the EFT payments and claims checks number 101217 through 101308, dated October 20th, 2020 through November 2nd, 2020, for $2,556,105.96, as well as the resolution establishing the city as a public aircraft operator.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have 4 public hearings on our agenda this evening, and we've not had any members of the public wish to address these individual items. So I'll open the public hearing for the ordinance adopting the 2021-2022 biennial budget. And since no public wish to speak, we'll close the public hearing portion and open it up to, toss it to you, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, before you is the ordinance and the 2021-22 biennial budget. The council has received this budget at the October 5th budget retreat and subsequently followed up with two workshops on it this month, or excuse me, in October. Only two changes have happened to the budget since we talked about it last. We made a typo correction in the police staffing. There was just a typo in there that we corrected. And at the October 26th workshop, council directed staff to change the tax revenues from 2% back to 1%, removing the bank capacity. Staff did that, so that is now reflected in the revenues, and the expenses of the budget have been reduced by that 1% bank capacity. For the expense side, we looked at three different options to absorb that. The operating budget for the line departments was reduced in 2020 by 10%. So we carried that over into the 2021 budget. There's no discretionary spending in the department budget, so we looked at three different options to absorb the 1% revenue, property tax revenue deduction. We looked at reducing an additional half an FTE. We looked at a moratorium on the public art fund and eliminating transfers to the capital facilities fund. It's my opinion that the elimination of transfers to the capital facilities fund has the least impact, so that's my recommendation for the expense side. Deborah.
So my question is that with that suggestion of eliminating the transfer to the capital facilities, what impact would that have? What is that, an item that would not be purchased, or a repair on a capital facilities building that might not occur? I just want us to kind of be able to be really aware of what this decision is, how it's affecting the city.
Yeah, it potentially would, potentially there would be repairs or something down the road that may not be met, or that we would have to push out a little bit. This seemed like a comfortable area to take this out as a one-time deduction out of the capital facilities fund, because the bids on Station 48 came in fairly favorable. We've got a good transfer of that money that's going to go to the police impound building and the M&O facility to construct those. So we did have a set aside of some cash. It was the direction of the council that we use city cash before we bond for the money, which is the approach that we took and what we're accomplishing. So it's my intent just to take that. It's about $43,000 to take that out of what would have been transferred from construction sales tax into the capital facilities fund, and offset it with that. So in a sense, we're using those one-time revenues, the $43,000 of those one-time revenues for operations in 2021.
Okay, and I'm glad that it, even if it's a half-time person, I don't even want to say it that way. I'm glad that we would not see the loss of a half-time job, because every job matters during days like this. So thank you.
As we discussed in the retreat, we're trying to preserve those. We don't want to do any layoffs. We have eliminated some positions that were vacant already, so we didn't do any layoffs. We just opted not to hire vacant, fill some of the vacant positions to help offset the budget for now. But all the predictions have this upcoming recession at being short, not as long as we saw in the Great Recession, making it not very cost effective to lay off staff and then have to rehire them in short order.
Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Marilyn and then Jessica.
Well, I just wanted to say that on the banked capacity on the 1% that we are not taking this time, that we're choosing not to take, it's still available. And so the budget, this 1% takes care of 2021. So next fall, when we go through this process, if the economy isn't as we predict to be good and our sales tax revenue up, we could take this at that time. It's not lost, it's just being postponed to another time should we need it. So it's not really, it's not like we're going to go without anything in 2021. I think we can readdress this because we have the biennial budget.
Yeah, that's correct. It's still a bank capacity, so council could have the same discussion next fall when we're looking at the 2022 property tax.
And this keeps our reserves within the allowed amount, or what we've decided on to keep as a reserve for 2 months, right?
What we've set by
Well,
policy.
Right.
We've set that by policy, but I do want to say that our range is between 1 and 2 months reserve fund, and at the revenue projections we have right now, our current is at about 2 months, a little over 2 months. We're projecting that we're going to drop down to about a month and a half in our reserve fund with the revenues that we are projecting right now. So we still are within our policy, and if revenues come in as projected, we'll have a discussion in the fall. If they come in better, we'll be in better shape.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica and then Mike.
I just wanted to clarify something that you just mentioned, Paul. You had said that you'd done a 10% reduction of the budget for 2020 and then rolled that over to 2021. And I wondered if you could clarify what that meant.
Yeah, so when COVID started this spring and we realized the possibility of particularly our sales tax revenue decreasing, we went through the departmental budgets, the operating budgets, with the goal of a 10% reduction in each one of those departments. The directors met that by giving up some operational. We went through and looked at programs that were underperforming. Travel and training was another item we looked at. And then, like I said, we did reduce some positions that were vacant, so that we didn't do any layoffs, but we did postpone hiring positions that were vacant in a few areas. One in M&O, one that was split between CED and finance, and one in executive department. So those cuts rolled over into 2021. So when we did the budget process for this year, we told directors there would be no program requests, no additional discretionary spending, and that we would hold the line on the 10% we cut for 2020 into the 2021 budget.
Well, I'll take that as a positive then, because I know we were originally looking at 25% for next year. So that's awesome. And then my other question is, because what we're going through right now is so unpredictable. And the fact that this year, even we were expecting a lot more loss and didn't see it. Do you have a plan for mid-year next year if we're seeing the revenue available, that it didn't drop, that we can actually fill those positions that we already have designated, they just don't have people in them yet?
Yeah, my intent is that, of course, we watch this regularly in council. We report to council monthly on the budget and revenue projections, and we'll continue to do that. My plan is when council has our retreat in April next year, we'll take a hard look at revenues and where we're at. And if we're in a position where we feel that we can add programs, then council can look at programs and prioritize new discretionary spending at that time.
Thank you.
Mike?
I'm a little unclear on the public art explanation that you made. Could you go into that a little more in more detail? I'm not real clear on exactly what's happening with the public art fund.
Yes, nothing. It was one of the things that we evaluated. Like I said, we took the 1% equals about, and I'm talking in about numbers, $43,000 in reduction in revenues. So we looked at where we could take $43,000 without taking additional out of the operating budget for each of the general fund departments, because we've already cut those. We've already cut discretionary spending out of those departments. So we identified three different things. Kristen and I, we went through. We said we could reduce another half a FTE, although we could not find a half a FTE anywhere to reduce. We could reduce the contributions to the public art fund, but that is set by ordinance. And then we looked at the capital facilities plan, and with the bids coming in favorable for Station 48 and our projects looking good, our M&O facility and our impound building, we've got good solutions in the process for that. I felt comfortable that would be the least impactful place to take the $43,000 out of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Any other questions? This will come back to the council in 2 weeks at your November 6th meeting to act upon. All right, so we'll open up the next public hearing, which is the resolution establishing the 2021 EMS tax levy. Again, we had no member. Oh, we just did that, didn't we? Oh, we did the budget. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
so we're on attachment D, the resolution establishing the 2021 general property tax levy. And again, we had no members of the public that wish to speak, so we'll close the public hearing and I'll throw it over to Paul again.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just the other piece to the budget that we were discussing. This is the ordinance that sets the general property tax for 2021. You'll notice that we have a biennial budget, so our budget covers 2021 and 2022. However, our revenues, we set the property taxes annually, not for 2 years. So this ordinance only covers 2021. We'll be back next year at this time to talk about 2022 and what council would like to do for that levy. For 2021, this ordinance reflects the changes that we just talked about, reducing the 2% proposed increase back to 1%, leaving the 1% bank capacity in the bank.
Any questions from council? All right, seeing none, again, this will come back on November 16th council meeting for action. So we'll open the third public hearing for the resolution establishing the 2021 EMS tax levy. And again, there were no members of the public that wish to speak, so we'll close the public hearing and give this over to Paul again.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the same as what we discussed. This, however, is the EMS levy. So when we were talking about the budget, we talked about EMS has three funding sources. We have the ambulance utility fee, we have transport fees, and we have the EMS levy rate. This ordinance reflects increasing the EMS levy rate by the 1% allowed by law for 2021. Again, this is annual, so even though our budget is for 2021 and 2022, this ordinance only changes for 2021.
Are there any questions from council? All right, seeing none, just another reminder that this will come back to the council at their November 16th council meeting for action. And we'll move to the fourth and final public hearing for this evening. And this one, we do expect council to take action on after the public hearing. It's the ordinance amending certain sections of the Arlington Municipal Code, specifically chapter 20.64 relating to floodplain regulations and declaring an emergency. Again, we had no members of the public that wish to speak, so we'll close the public hearing portion and I'll turn this over to Mark Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So this is the final adoption of the amendments to the chapter 2064 floodplain development regulations. As you might recall, back in May 4th of this year, council did vote on this during an emergency ordinance, amending these sections, and approved that at that time. It was in an interim basis simply because at the time we could not hold public hearings. But it did have to, within 6 months, come up to a public hearing, which is where we are tonight. And as the mayor referred, is that we do need to take action on this this evening.
Anybody have any questions for Mark?
Okay, I move to approve the, or do we need to close the, is there
No, I
any
would
official
close.
steps first?
No, I already closed it.
Okay. I move to approve the ordinance amending sections of Arlington Municipal Code, Chapter 20.64, floodplain development regulations, and declaring an emergency, and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
So now we'll move into our new business, and the first item we have is a resolution approving the Regional Fire Authority planning document and annexation. Oh,
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item we've discussed several times now. We had a retreat in June, and we've looked at this over the 2 workshops in October. The council committee worked on this plan since January. They had 16 meetings. That's Jessica and Marilyn from the council, along with 2 members from the North County Regional Fire Authority Commission. They worked through the plan and made amendments to it for the annexation. I think we've walked through all of that plan several times and talked through it. What's new on this is that we added a resolution to that plan that will authorize the county to put this on the February 2021 special election ballot for voters to have consider the annexation. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have a question, but I have a statement. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
hear you.
Since all of this, and I know we've gotten some of the information out to the public, but I've had multiple citizens contact me, and there are concerns, and some of the concerns they raised, I guess I would feel more comfortable if we had another meeting, and I would like to ask for at least a couple of hours, that we can go back over this line by line, because we've got a council that is going to have to be answering to the public as we go forward. And if it's up for election in February, personally, I feel like I still don't have all the answers and I can't respond to them. And I do understand some of their concerns. And I personally am just not comfortable moving forward with this tonight. I'd like us to have another special meeting that we spend a couple hours so that every one of us know where we're coming from and have the right answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Michelle?
You mean for council? I wasn't sure what you were saying. You mean for council to meet again, Jan? Or
yes, a workshop specifically for the RFA for more information.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant council or the public, so thank you.
No, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Okay. Well, I will say that we've had a lot of meetings on this. The entire council sat in a retreat and meetings, and we've all gone over the data. We looked at every single column. We all came to the same consensus that this is the way we wanted to go. We shared this information with the RFA committee. Jessica and I have worked very hard on this as well as the staff and the committee. And we came to a point where we felt very comfortable bringing this forward to the council. And then the council, everyone on the council said, yes, we're good with this. Let's bring it forward. And so I think that we should move forward with it. And so with that, I want to make the motion. And I would move to adopt the North County Regional Fire Authority Plan Amendment and Resolution to the NCRFA Board, and to approve the annexation to the NCRFA if approved by the voters.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody call for the question and I missed it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. I didn't hear it. Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Nay.
Did you get that, Ashley? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. We move to our final item this evening. Excuse me, second item this evening under new business, the interlocal agreement to share costs with North County Regional Fire Authority. Paul.
This one's fairly simple. We talked about this at the workshop. North County Regional Fire Authority has offered to split the costs associated with some of the expenses that have arose from the meetings that we've had and the discussions and the outreach that will be happening to the public. So we completed this interlocal agreement. North County Regional Fire Authority Commission has approved this unanimously. So they'll be splitting the cost with us for the expenses that arise from the annexation if council approves this.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I move to approve the interlocal agreement with North County Regional Fire Authority and authorize the mayor to sign it.
Second?
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we'll move to our final item this evening, which is revisions to the City Council Rules of Procedures and Code of Ethics. Steve Pifel and Paul Ellis.
I'll start it out if you want, Steve, and then you can fill in the blanks.
All right.
This was a request from council to make some modifications to the council's rules and procedure to allow remote access to meetings. It doesn't really mean a lot right now today because it's the only thing we have is a remote access. But someday when we get back to life as normal and we start having face-to-face meetings, the provisions in this new section will allow council on a limited basis to be able to attend city council meetings remotely, so that in the event that they have personal business, city business, or vacation that interferes with the meeting where their input is needed, they'll be allowed to remote access in. Anything else I should add to that, Steve, or you would like to add to it?
No, I think you fairly summarized it. Again, the principal issue that is recommended by MRSC when the council adopts remote attendance provisions that are not imposed by the governor, you should simply have a policy that explains when that's permitted and under what circumstances. And so we've attempted to draft that based on the input that we received from council. Obviously, it's subject to whatever changes the council wishes to make to this draft, but we tried to put into this document everything that every concern that the council raised before we got started on it.
Deborah has a question and then Michelle.
Just a statement that reading through it, I felt like Steve and Paul, you guys really captured the essence of what the council was asking for. You covered all the bases. I've read MRSC's things about it too. And so thank you for listening and for bringing this forward. I appreciate it.
Michelle?
Yeah, I would just say that this looks exactly like what we asked for. And the no more than 4 instances, again, I know I brought it up last time. I would just bring it up again in the event. And I know that we have control over that also, but it's specific in this and where it does state no more than 4 times. So that's all. That's just my concern. There's a number. And I know, Paul, you told me last time that we do have control over revising that if we need to.
It is the council's rules and procedures, so you can revise it anytime.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, I move to approve the revised city council rules of procedure and code of ethics as presented.
Second?
Question?
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Do we have any comments from council members this evening? Do we have anything from the administrator?
Nothing this evening. I think I took my share of talk time tonight.
Okay. I have a number of items for mayor's report, but I'm going to hold them over for the workshop because a lot of them are right now in development.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Good night.